I'm going to say some things. You're not going to like it, and you're probably going to question my loyalty to this country for saying it. And albeit you wouldn't be wrong if it weren't for the context of what I'm talking about. Iran is winning the war that Donald Trump started. They're winning the war. Now, the fact is, they might not be winning and destroying American military assets, tanks, our planes. They might not be killing our soldiers by the thousands. It's not that kind of winning the war. They're winning the war because our country is in complete, total chaos. Day after day, the American economy, our economy, is being destroyed. In my hometown right now where I'm sitting, prices for gas are nearly $5 a gallon, and they're steadily increasing. Donald Trump is continuing to scream for Iran to make a deal and continuing to threaten Iran with blowing up infrastructure, violating the Geneva Convention. And all the while, Donald Trump's cabinet, namely the person I want to talk about, Pete Hegseth, is making excuses at the expense of our soldiers. All this at the same time while King Charles of England made his first trip to the United States and completely embarrassed Donald Trump, the Republican Party, the MAGA, and America as a whole. What you're about to hear now in the next 11 minutes is a news report, an editorial report from Lawrence O'Donald from MSnow, The Last Word, about how Pete Hegseth needs to answer not only for the crimes he and Donald Trump committed in Iran, but the crimes that they committed in this country against our own soldiers. Take a listen.
Night at a state dinner at the White House, Donald Trump made it clear that he didn't understand what his guest of honor had said earlier in the day in his speech to a joint session of Congress.
I want to congratulate Charles on having made a fantastic speech today at Congress. He got the Democrats to stand. I've never been able to do that. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. They liked him more than they've ever liked any Republican or Democrat, actually.
I was a little surprised by that, too, yesterday, because as we showed you on this program last night, Republicans gave the King of England repeated standing ovations for delivering a speech that on every point was identical to a Joe Biden State of the Union address, stressing unyielding support for NATO, unlimited support for Ukraine, fighting for liberty against the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin, and an international cooperative effort to save the polar ice caps by trying to avert climate change, which Donald Trump says is a hoax. The king was at it again last night at the White House, trying to teach Donald Trump the importance of preserving NATO and defending Ukraine.
The first president I had the honor of meeting at the age of 10 in 1959 when he came to Balmoral was President Eisenhower, who had served as Supreme Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Forces during World War II at a most critical time in the darkest days of the 20th century. American leadership helped rebuild a shattered continent, playing a decisive role as a defender of freedom in Europe. We and I shall never forget that, not least as freedom is again under attack following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Today, our partnerships in NATO and AUKUS deepen our technological and military cooperation and ensure that together we can meet the challenges of an increasingly complex and contested world.
The king never used the word Iran in either of his speeches yesterday, but he closed his speech last night with a clear enough reference to Donald Trump's war by using Shakespeare's words to deliver a plea for peace.
At this time, when the search for peace in the world is more critical than ever, I can only turn to Shakespeare's genius to remind us of the plea for peace spoken by the Duke of Burgundy at the conclusion of Henry V. My speech entreats that I may know why gentle peace should not bless us with her former qualities.
When the Pope says things like that, Donald Trump accuses the Pope of wanting Iran to have a nuclear weapon. When a man bearing what Donald Trump considers the fanciest title in the world and the fanciest accent says it, Donald Trump applauds. Donald Trump now has a tell, and it's a big one, and the Iranian leadership knows it. Donald Trump's tell is that when he says, "No more Mr. Nice Guy," he doesn't mean it. We all know he's never been a nice guy, so he doesn't mean it in any literal sense. No one thinks that. But he uses what he thinks is a good Hollywood screenwriter, tough guy talk line when he says, "No more Mr. Nice Guy," as a threat in tweets that promise to bomb Iran if Iran doesn't immediately agree to a deal with Donald Trump. 10 days ago, Donald Trump tweeted, "No more Mr. Nice Guy," saying that if Iran didn't take a deal from Donald Trump that he was offering them, that he would, quote, that the United States would, quote, is going to knock out every single power plant and every single bridge in Iran. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Iran did not respond to that threat of Donald Trump committing war crimes in any way. And, big surprise, Donald Trump did nothing. Donald Trump didn't blow up anything. And at 4:05 a.m. today, in what looks like another nasty fit of insomnia, Donald Trump tweeted, "No more Mr. Nice Guy," again, saying this time they don't know how to sign a non-nuclear deal. They better get smart soon, exclamation point. And this time he let the picture do the talking about what he would do. But in the picture, Donald Trump is portrayed as actually physically participating. Oh, let's take those words off the picture right now so we can see the picture on the screen. Let's get that. Maybe we can't do it from the control room. Anyway, that picture shows Donald Trump carrying a weapon of war, a rifle, as if he's actually participating in war, which is another way of saying to the Iranian leadership, obviously, I, Donald Trump, don't mean anything in this tweet because I would never physically participate in war. Apparently, no one's told Donald Trump in the movie he thinks he's living in, you can't only say "No more Mr. Nice Guy" once. You only get to say it once. There it is. There's the picture. Donald Trump's war was the subject of the day in the House Armed Services Committee, where Donald Trump's defense secretary proved he does not know what a war is.
Iran's been at war with us for 47 years.
That man wants to be called, illegally called, the Secretary of War, not the Secretary of Defense. And he does not know what a war is. The United States of America has never been at war for 47 years. The most incompetent Secretary of Defense in history was shown to be incapable of actually planning for the most obvious contingencies of war, including the possible closing of the Strait of Hormuz, and the most important, which is the preservation of life, the lives of the American military sent by Donald Trump into his war. The first 6 Americans killed in Donald Trump's war were killed because Pete Hegseth left those soldiers defenseless. It is not the first time that American war commanders have been responsible for unnecessary casualties. The commission studying the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in World War II found that the admiral and general in command of that American military base in Hawaii were gravely at fault in leaving the thousands of Americans who were stationed there and who were killed there that day virtually defenseless in an attack that the American commanders should have been ready for. The American commanders at Pearl Harbor knew that they were going to be questioned sharply about how they let that attack happen, and they knew it was their responsibility to answer those questions. And they could not have been surprised that they were held responsible and relieved of their commands. Pete Hegseth offered a truly Trumpian refusal to bear any responsibility for what happened to those 6 soldiers, or to dozens of others who survived that attack on the second day of Donald Trump's war with much more serious wounds than Donald Trump's Secretary of Defense admitted they suffered at the time. And so Pete Hegseth's incompetence has a price. Just as command incompetence at Pearl Harbor in 1941 came with a terrible, terrible price, 2,403 American dead at Pearl Harbor. For the families of the 6 U.S. soldiers killed on the second day of Donald Trump's war, Pochueba is their Pearl Harbor. March 1st, 2026 is the day that will live in infamy for those families. New York Congressman Pat Ryan, an Army combat veteran, spent his entire question time asking the kinds of questions that were asked after Pearl Harbor. And at no point did Pete Hegseth think to offer any particular words of praise to the soldiers who were killed. He offered no direct sympathies for the soldiers who were wounded. He approached the questioning as if he was the only person in this story who mattered, and he was somehow now the victim in this story. Here, in honor of those 6 lives, and in honor of the suffering of the wounded that day that continues to this day, are the questions that any decent Secretary of Defense would have already asked in his own investigation of that incident. Questions to which the families deserve answers. Everyone in the American military deserves the answers. The American people deserves the answers, and Pete Hegseth refuses to give those answers. Congressman Pat Ryan spoke for everyone today when he told Pete Hegseth, those soldiers are braver than you are.
Secretary Hegseath, that is obviously in direct contradiction to what you said from the Pentagon podium the next day. So are you saying that these soldiers, our soldiers who survived this horrific attack, are lying?
What I'm saying is before the commencement of the conflict, we put in maximum defensive posture we could.
That's a direct
We
contradiction
moved
to
70
what they said.
in this directing. Can I speak, or are you just going to monologue falsehoods all over the place?
It's not a falsehood.
We moved 7,500 troops off of the X based on the intel.
Stop.
Based on the intel.
Stop. Reclaiming my time.
Because you yell doesn't make you right.
Calling,
Just because you yell doesn't make you right.
I'm reclaiming my time on behalf of these survivors. You just said what they said is a falsehood.
There's a much larger picture.
True?
There's a much larger picture at play here that included integrated air defenses, bunkers, moving people off the
Then
X
why, Mr.
to
Secretary,
ensure
are
that they
they
were
dead?
not part of the target. We moved those troops and all across the theater, thousands of troops off the X, off of their bases, because we knew what Iran was going to try to strike, and we knew there could be a tragic moment.
No
there could be a
answer, Mr.
tragic moment where
Secretary.
something
Again.
could get through. Of
Again.
course, that's the
I'm
consequence of
reclaiming my
conflict,
time.
and we
Again.
remember those 6 every single day.
I want to finish.
But don't play games with.
I'm not playing games.
raising
I
your
want to
voice
finish
and
with
pointing
one more
fingers.
quote from a survivor of the attack, and I'll put this on the record. Telling the truth is important, and we're not going to learn from these mistakes if we pretend these mistakes didn't happen. Secretary Hegseath, those soldiers told the truth. Those soldiers are braver than you are.
I commend them.
They are asking for accountability. They deserve accountability, and I'm asking for the same, starting with you. And as I said a year ago, you need to resign immediately.
I commend those
And I
soldiers.
yield back.
Thank you, Lawrence O'Donald, for that commentary. And thank you, members of Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, who actually held Pete Hegseth, Whiskey Pete Hegseth, that's the nickname I gave him, that held Whiskey Pete Hegseth's feet to the fire on this. But two things I want to say before I close out this video. The first, Trump, stop acting like you're a tough guy. You're not. You never have been. You never will be. I mean, these threats, whether you realize it or not, whether someone isn't telling you in the White House or not, they're a violation of the Geneva Convention, which means you could possibly go to jail the second you walk off the White House lawn as your final day as president, whether it be in the next couple of years or probably in the next few months, because the pressure is mounting on you, Trump. Whether you like it or not, the pressure is mounting on you, and you are going to crack. And like all cowards and like all kinds of criminals, from here to there in history, you will run like a scalded dog. Because you don't have the guts for a real fight. You've shown it all your life. So stop posting photos of you carrying a rifle around thinking you're the tough guy. I'm Rambo. Because you're not. And secondly, the Pete Hegseth, Whiskey Pete, outside of Donald Trump, I have more disdain for you than anyone else in this regime, this so-called administration. I have disdain for you because you served in the military. You know what's like. The discipline, everything that goes with the uniform. You know about the brotherhood between soldiers. See, I never served. I don't know anything about that. Not completely. My father served. His brothers served. My grandfather served. I have members of my extended family who serve. I have best friends right now who are serving. I never put on the uniform outside my 4 years of high school in JRTC. I lived on military bases in my young life. I lived right near a military base when I was in high school. So I understand what these men and women are going through, and it seems you don't, or you don't care. You don't give a damn. You didn't mention any of our soldiers, God bless our troops, or anything like that when you were testifying. And that was only one clip. I saw the whole thing. You were condescending, you were insulting, you were disrespectful, not only of the men and women in Congress, but the men and women in uniform. You didn't give a damn if they died. They were just political props and pawns, cannon fodder to get the job done for Donald Trump. Not America, not our freedoms, but for Donald John Trump. The way I see it, Hegseath, you got two choices after that hearing. You can either leave office now and maybe, just maybe, and this is a huge maybe, you might avoid prison time, considering the fact that you bombed a school full of Iranian children. Honestly, if it were up to me right now, I would have walked into that hearing at the Armed Services Committee, slapped the cuffs on you, and dragged you out by your ass or your alcoholic balls and have you charged with murder. And that's going to happen, Hegseath, a few months from now, or however long you're in office, or 2 years from now when Trump is gone and no one can protect your ass. It's going to happen, Hegseath. So start drinking now. Hem your garments, curse the heavens, it will save you some time down the road. But first, have a few drinks, and maybe you might feel good about yourself. Matter of fact, call Kash Patel, director of the FBI. You two can probably have a beer blast or a beer celebration. Maybe, just maybe, you can celebrate with the NHL Stanley Cup champions. Go to their locker room and do some bill swilling. Hegseath, I'm going to make this clear for you. There's a Bible verse that says, "He who lives by the sword and dies by the sword." We need to amend that. He who lives by Trump dies by Trump, and you are going to lose everything for Trump. And you know what the sick, twisted part about this is? You honestly think that Trump is going to save you. No, he's not going to save you, because once his ass is in a sling, and yes, you can bet your bomb dollar, his ass is going to be in a sling. He will give you up in a heartbeat. Mr. Trump, did you do this? No, it was all him. It's him. It's him. He did Hegseath. I told him not to do it. I didn't want to do it, but Pete Hegseth made me. That's exactly what Trump is going to do. And if you and the MAGA and the rest of you brainless wonders who still wear those stupid red hats don't understand that fact, then you deserve your fate. And as for the soldiers that you killed, the soldiers that you ordered to die, the blood, along with the blood of the Iranian citizens that you murdered in this unprovoked war, are on your hands. And no one is going to forget that. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.